All right, Razor. So, we have taken a while to get back during training camp. That's because we don't need training camp. I don't think we need training camp. We, you know, we expect to be in midseason form right away. Although
Yeah, yeah,
I do got to admit, I kind of effed up the recording to begin right here a little bit. So maybe I do need training camp.
yeah.
It's-
We'll see if we get through these 30 minutes or whatever it
oh,
is first. But no, right? I mean, we can bypass the first few cuts. Just
yeah.
put us in the last preseason game and let's go.
Yeah, I think that I don't think people need to hear us pontificate about kids going back to juniors. Although I will say this that Lysel Fabian looks fabulous. He does. He's got great panache to him.
Yeah,
He's a good talent for this team, right? Sent back to juniors the other day. Looking good already.
it's a little bit different than what we've seen out of first rounders the last few years that this team's taken. And yeah, he plays a fun, skilled brand of hockey, and you can tell he's got a lot of development to do, and he should absolutely rip apart the Western League after doing what he did
Yes.
in Sweden last year.
Yes. Go put up
Go get
100.
200 points and
Yeah,
have fun. That's
exactly.
that's the
Go
that's the message.
dominate, create, great persona, great presence. By the way, welcome into Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. That is right. We are back. We are on our way. We are dusting off the microphones. We are figuring out how to get back onto the recording studios, and we are ready to talk Boston Bruins and other stuff from around the National Hockey League. We're going to rip through this one. I'm going to call this a short session. And yes, we'll hit the 30-minute mark, but not more than that as we get our vocal cords back up to strength. You got to be careful with those fellas. You got to be delicate with those vocal cords. We got stuff to get through. Goaltending, Jack Studnicka. What do the third and fourth line look like? What do we think about the D crew now when it's all said and done? But more than just that, Razor and I also wanted just to say hi to everybody again, get back at it, and talk about what our plans are for this upcoming season. Some which are, I think, pretty defined, and one or two other things that are still maturing, so to speak, or figuring themselves out. But let's get to all of that. So I got a way. I think I have a great way to start this. How many guys besides like young guys really like training camp? How many really like it? And how much do you think? Now, I know you didn't experience one of these different style training camp, meaning that there's limitations that different than when you were playing. But how much more do you think you would enjoy a training camp like this compared to the ones that you went through?
I would certainly enjoy these much better, just for the simple fact of fitness testing is actually not torturous and not inhumane to
Hmm.
start out the first day and a half of camp. So that alone would excite me a little bit more than nowadays than it did back then. So no, I think you literally have 3 or 4 days at the start of camp where everyone's excited, back to a routine, back to
Hmm.
being at the rink with the guys, everybody's in town, and then it's essentially the next great day is that when the team gets made and you're practicing for opening day. That's the way. This is where they're at now in training camp, being five
Boring.
preseason games in. It's
Boring.
boring. It's tiring. You're in two groups still, so you haven't seen everybody. It's an odd way to go to the rink, and you just want to get down to the team. And certainly there's young guys that don't want to get down to the team, that want to keep hanging around. But if you're in the NHL and you're just ready to get down to the team and start the regular season.
All right. So, I mean, I can pull off my couple experiences at training camp at University of Michigan. We did some things that I guess looking back weren't that torturous. I mean, running the Michigan football stadium, it's good exercise. You had to do it. I mean, at times, if I remember correctly, you had this. It was like five different sets. One of them was hopping up on the left leg, another one was hopping up on the right leg. Everyone, at some point, you had to carry somebody up sometimes, but was that inhumane? I don't know if I'd call it inhumane. I hated running. 5 mile run. I hated it. I would consider that inhumane, but it's good exercise. What was the most inhumane thing that you had to do at training camp?
It's Wingate and VO2, that bike, those bikes
Yeah,
were and to
yeah.
do those back to back, to have to do those on the same day and
Which
then
one did you
practice and
dislike
expect to
more?
practice.
Which one did you dislike more,
Um,
Wingate or
I
VO2?
had I had a bit of an issue with the mask on the Wingate. I felt claustrophobic, and I had a really hard time with that. The Wingate's horrible, don't get me wrong, but it's 30 seconds, and it's the worst 30 seconds you can ever
Yeah,
deal with.
yeah.
But, dealing having the mask on and things, I didn't like VO2 at all.
Yeah, I did VO2, but it was without the mask on, and so
Yeah.
so I was all right. Wingate, we never had to do. We did other tests again, but bike always never really bothered me. The running stuff, oh my god, that bothered me.
Yes.
Yeah,
So, I mean, again, I was always skinny and light, and, to try and hammer through a Wingate do the same bike as that Cam Neely was doing, it didn't really make sense.
yeah.
Or
I don't
Ray
know
Bork.
what the hell do you mean by skinny and light? I've never had that
Yeah,
terms
that's right. That's
attached
right.
to this 6 foot, what used to be 6'1", 216 pound
Oh,
body. I've shrunk and
that's
I've
right. So,
widened over
well,
the time.
it's just imagine, think about how it felt running the stadium, and put yourself on a bike like that. That's where I'm at. So we we
Yeah.
we definitely are opposites in that way.
They made us do sprints one time too. In my freshman year, I didn't pull my hammy, but I did that cramp pull to it. And I had done
Yep.
sprints over the summer, but you're a freshman, you're there, whatever. And oh man, that knocked me out for
Mhm.
about a
And then
week.
you have to skate through it for 2 weeks and not tell anybody about it
Well, I
because,
tried, but yeah,
you
I
can't be out of
tried.
shape.
I know. Well,
Brutal.
trust me, I know. Maybe that's my excuse. All right. Anyways, let's get
Mhm.
to listen. I want to start with goaltending for obvious reasons. Uh, that you having the insight, but also I think because there's a lot to talk about Jack Studnicka, but I feel like the body of work from Jeremy Swayman, even more so from last year. I don't think it's fair. I'll give my opinion at first, Razor, and I know we still got one more game left to see Linus Ullmark bring something a little more efficient, perhaps is the term I would use, a little more fluid in Wednesday's game. But it feels to me like Jeremy Swayman has made a very subtle stance or statement of, I am ready to start. I'm not, it's almost like he's saying, hey, I'm good. You want to choose a starter, go ahead. You can, I respect what you choose, but I'm showing you that I'm ready. I've liked his performances more. Now, Ulmark needs a little more time, I believe, to get used to a new team, a new scenario, a new everything. And that's not knocking the guy whatsoever. I still believe in my heart of hearts he's going to be just fine here. But I have to say, as we sit and talk right now, bud, that it's Jeremy Swayman's net. Now, October 16th is still a little ways away.
It's a long ways away still for the goalies. And listen, those 2 guys are on the team, so it's not like one or the other needs to get put on waivers in a couple days. So, I agree with you. Swayman's done a wonderful job throughout this preseason. He looks calm. He
Hmm.
looks very comfortable, and looks like he's proving that he belongs. Everything that's getting thrown at this kid, he's handling it, dealing with it, and moving on to the next thing.
Hmm.
Um, to all of that, your point about he's Swayman's much more comfortable. Swayman's got a massive upper hand that he's been here all summer. He was here last season, all season long,
Hmm.
basically. He's been in the hotel. He knows what's going on, knows where to get food, knows what to do. Doesn't have a family that he's trying to adopt into this city as well. So it's a
Doesn't have the
lot more.
pressure. By the way, I don't think has the pressure
No, no, everyone's
of a
still
new.
flying
Yeah.
high. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's everyone's still on board, and so I think that it's so much easier for him. And listen, the reality is too is that he's needed to look at this preseason a little bit differently than Allmark as well. Allmark still, to your point, still has 11 days.
Yeah.
He's looking at October 16th, where Swayman had September 30th circled on his calendar. Allmark has October 16th. That's the reality of a guy who's played in the NHL, signed a 5-year contract, signed or 4-year contract.
Yeah.
That that's so I'm not jumping to those conclusions. He does. I would like to see him play a little bit more efficient, to your
Yeah.
point, a little bit more under control. Talk to one of the other NHL guys today, north of the border, and talked a lot. And he was surprised to hear that he didn't look like in control because he thinks that he's been in control the last 3-4 years in the NHL,
Yeah.
and believes that he'll get to that. So, but again, at the end of the day, you have to do it on the ice, and it'll be interesting. I think what the big story for the entire team is how this 10-day break shakes out. I don't understand how it works. I don't understand what they're going to do. It's just so different from anything that we've seen before. Is it 10
Yeah.
days in between games? It's
Well,
odd, and how they judge and how they evaluate will be interesting.
okay. Well, let's not get to that too much just yet because we have another
Yeah.
podcast that we're hoping another show to come out. I think we'll
Yeah, yeah,
try to
yeah.
record it Thursday for Friday, and we'll talk about it there. But we also might know more of their plan by by
Yeah.
that time that we sit and chat about it. But um, I think just to kind of wrap that
Again,
little.
so let me jump back in then. Let me just
Okay.
finish then is okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they're going to evaluate the goaltenders going forward, and how they're, because again, the way I see it and the way I've seen it all along, and I think they're both going to play right out of the gates. They're not going to go Allmark
Yeah.
5 straight games to start the season and then
No.
Swayman. That was
No.
never the plan, no matter what. I think Allmark still starts game one, and you go from there.
Does he start game one if he has a marginal game on Wednesday night, though? I hate playing this hypothetical crap too, but I think it's a valid question here. I do because Swain, if Linus has a very game, Swayman hasn't had that. He said, well, oh, damn right, he's making that statement. See, I would differ if Ulmark has an average game and doesn't show himself, even with the 10-day break in between. I say Swayman gets the start then.
Yeah, I think Allmark still goes and Swayman goes game two. Like they're gonna go 1 and 2, and again, when you sign a guy to $20 million in the summer,
Okay.
typically he's getting the start.
Well,
That
that
and
was my
and that's
question.
just the way it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way I see it. Again, it might full well be a full meritocracy, and that's the way it goes. But I just think that game one you put him in, you signed him to be your starter for a little while here, and that doesn't mean that Swayman won't go next game or the game after and go on a run. We're going to see both of these guys a lot in October, November.
All right. So biggest challenge for Lena Sulmark coming in: different defensive structure, different terminology, different city, different expectations, going
Bingo.
from one gong show to a real show. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Uh, out of all those biggest differences, what is it for Linus Ulmark?
Hands down, biggest expectations. It's different expectations. It's coming in off the big contract, coming in from a bad team to an original six with
Mhm,
culture that it basically tops the league at this point, and trying to fit into that room, fit in, and don't forget, like, he's coming in behind an all timer, a guy who's got the most wins and everything we know about Tuukka. I'm sure Linus Allmark grew up watching a lot of
mhm.
Tuukka Rask when he was a kid, and those are lofty expectations as well. So that's what he's got to fight through a little bit and work through, and again, just getting as comfortable as possibly can here as soon as possible.
Yeah, so I'm not ready to analyze his play just yet. That's
No, that's it. That's it.
that I'm
It's
not ready to do that.
yeah.
No, no. I'd have a better thing analyzing you on that Peloton behind you than I would with Linus Ulmark.
That's not a Peloton. That's a clothes hanger.
Oh, well, oh, it's become that. So Razor is dull this off season, is what you're saying. Hey,
Yeah,
even I'll
that's
tell you
right.
what, it's a godsend. I don't have the sling on tonight, but you know what? Every other day, the last week or so, I've been getting on the Peloton. Thank God, being able to do something. Oh,
Sweat it out.
oh, sweat it out a little bit. Um, all right, so we'll talk goaltending more later. Let's now talk Jack Studnicka. Where does he fit in? Does he fit in? He had another nice game against the Philadelphia Flyers, who dressed a pretty good lineup. Like the Bruins a couple of nights ago dressed a
Mhm.
pretty damn good lineup against the Rangers.
Yep.
Um, you want to talk about making a case? Studnicka is making a case. He's doing everything that you're asking a young player to do in this situation? Has it been enough in your eyes to warrant a spot in the roster?
Well, I want you to go first on this one.
You want me? Okay. Um, if they are going to play him, if Charlie Coyle is not ready to go full bore,
Mhm.
absolutely, he's earned more than enough.
Yeah.
This is where that 10-day break comes in, and this is where we'll see an awful lot. Where I'd love to see Charlie get a game in on Wednesday night. I don't know if he's there. I think Bruce will probably address that Tuesday.
Mhm.
Um, but if he's not, then yes, then Jack has done enough. I'm in the camp. I don't want Jack sitting. I don't want him sitting up with the Bruins.
Yep.
Would I be against him? Hear me out on this, bud. Would I be against him getting rewarded and starting in the roster, in the lineup as a fourth liner somewhere? No, I wouldn't. Starting, and I'm talking a game or two only. If
Mhm.
if he doesn't get, I don't want him playing 8 to 12 minutes a night though. I want him at the 12 to 15, 16-minute mark at the NHL level. Minimum 12.
Yep.
Minimum.
Well,
So
and I yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, so if they say, look, you've busted your ass, you've earned it, and we're reimagining this fourth line to begin. We're gonna give you a crack on the fourth line, and it might not be ideal, but we're gonna give you a crack. And maybe the other thing is they say, well, maybe he picks up for Charlie or somebody else if, in the first game or two if they don't flourish. So you got him in the lineup. But if it can't be more than a couple of games. Otherwise, send the kid to Providence, let him play, and let him play a ton, and then he's going to be up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that was where I was gonna go. I just had another thought as you were talking, but either way, he's got to play. And listen, it's not the end of the world if he goes down and scores 15 goals in 10 games in Providence to start the season. There's going to be injuries. He's going to be in the NHL this year. He's going to play games. A
Yep.
lot of times, kids get opportunities a week into the season, 2 weeks into the season, a month into the season that they don't get coming out of camp. And it's a numbers game, it's a waivers game, it's a new signings game. However, you bring up a good point about
Mhm.
giving him a chance at the start. If Charlie doesn't play, let's say, maybe Charlie's the one who plays on the fourth line to start the season to get his legs going in a game where he's
Yep.
playing 8, 9 minutes. Studnicka starts on the second line until Coyle ramps up, and you go from there.
Yep. I can
That
see
could
it.
be another scenario where that works for Studnicka, gives him an opportunity to play, gives him, a few more dollars in his pocket. Here's a good reward for your efforts here in camp. And then but wherever it is, to your point, he's got to play. Don't let him lose momentum that he's gained over the summer and through this training camp, and let him have a monster season wherever that is.
Right. And the way that the schedule starts for the Bruins, October 16th is the first game, right? It's not right. I know
Mhm.
that. That's at home against Dallas. And then they've got a couple of days off, and then they play Wednesday and Friday. And I mean, holy smokes, you could even look at it as he's busted his butt. He's done everything we've asked, and you get rewarded the right way, and you play him in that game, and then you got 3, 4 days off. You can even send him down right there, depending on what happens. I mean,
Mhm.
we're looking almost too far ahead at that, but I'm not against them being a little creative with it. It's not like your fourth line now. You need 2 battleships and an agitator on it anymore. You just don't.
Mhm.
So if
Yeah.
you're reimagining your lineup, you got to figure your fourth line is a combination of, we know it's Lazar and Nosek, and then we think it's Frederick, and then there's a Wagner, and then is there a bleed sign, type of thing. Though, you know what I mean? It's a compilation
Yep.
of a couple of guys. But who's to say that Jack Studnicka couldn't start there and elevate up
Yep.
and ride down at times? So I think if he earns it, he should get it. That's my he should get a spot in opening night. That's my take.
And has he earned it completely?
He has, in my opinion, right now. If you're using the
Yeah.
the the litmus test of training camp, physical fitness, performance, and then game action, which is what they
Mhm.
wanted out of, yes, I don't think there's a question that he hasn't earned a spot in the lineup. But I can't
Yep.
emphasize enough. Do not then have him going under 12 minutes a night on a fourth line role regularly. Temporarily, I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. I think it sends a good message. You earned it. You get this game.
Mhm.
Maybe after that you go down. That's my take. That would be
Yeah.
that'd be my take. And I look, he's putting his ass in front of the net. He is stronger. Does it mean it's going to benefit him all year? Well, I sure hope. But let's at least I think rewarding is important. So if
Yep.
assume let's assume let's push the Studnicka thing to the side for a second. And I know starting tomorrow, actually starting Wednesday, you're going to see a big time lineup Wednesday for the Bruins. You're going to see their
Yeah.
more or less their lineup. Um, are you comfortable with their third and fourth line? Are you feeling it more or less or the same as when Donnie and his staff made all these moves a couple of months ago?
I'm feeling it more. I love it. I love Nosek. I think he is such a massive upgrade on that fourth line, and I know Corrali had some big goals. I know, but at the end, and certainly last season, it's not even close. Nosek is such a good player. To have him there solidifies that. Being able to move Lazar over, I really like Lazar. I loved what he did when he came last
Mhm.
season to the Bruins, but to be able to have him be the second guy, he doesn't have to drive that fourth line. I think he's better complementary on that line with behind Nosek. And then to jump up and go Holla, DeBrusque, Foligno, Holla looks real good too. Again, I think that to be able to have him playing with pace, and I think watching it, I think that will help DeBrusque be able to play fast. Just go and play fast, and not have to Jake won't have any reason not to play fast all the time. He won't have to try and keep, play with Krejci where it's a little slow. He can have his feet moving all the time, and that's the knock on him when he's not playing great is his feet aren't moving. He's not in on the forecheck, and I think Holla will push him to get to that pace. So I like that combination as well. And Foligno, just a smart character guy. So I'm much more bullish than I was even when they made these signings on the third and fourth line. I think that brings a lot of depth, and I think the matchups that they're going to get because of the first line are going to really benefit those guys as well.
Are we almost at the point where the third and fourth line are interchangeable, or do you see a separation with the potential of DeBrusque, Howla, Foligno? Like, I'm a big Nick Foligno fan. I'm a fan of how he carries himself, how he leads. Um, I know people that coached him in Columbus, and they just speak so highly of him. And I've talked to him. I mean, he's fantastic. He is. I'm not hesitating. I'm saying I'm just curious at his age at 34. Let's see what he
Hmm.
brings. I know he can play all three positions. You're talking three lefties on that third line. You talk there, but are we almost seeing potential a a 3A, 3B, a 4A, 4B? What do you think? Because by the way, the other thing is this, and sorry to Howla had the one big year in Vegas a couple of years ago. The first year we had 54 points, I think it was 52 or 54. But he's never gotten close to that again. He's basically a 20, maybe a 30 guy. If I
Yep.
think if he gets to 40 points for the Bruins, holy smokes, is that gold. I'll be thrilled with
Huh.
35, but if he got to 40, that would be freaking awesome.
No question. I mean, massive depth. I think I look at I could see there's some interchanging certainly between those two lines. I do think watching and seeing how Bruce Cassidy set up his lineup, I think to me it looks like they're pairing up the Brusque and Holla and they're pairing up Lazar and Nosek on those two lines, and the other two guys, the other two wings are interchangeable. And
Mhm.
Foligno can move over on the left to your point on the fourth line possibly. You can move
Yep.
someone up onto that right side, even a Coil maybe if Studnicka goes on the second line,
Yeah, yeah.
Coil moves into the third line right wing spot. I don't, so I think that's interchangeable, but it seems just watching through camp, I think they want those two guys to have chemistry, Hall and DeBrusque, and I think Nosek and Lazar are staples on the fourth line.
How much do would veterans sit and talk about this kind of thing? Like you and I are just doing here, just BSing. How much would you guys sit in the locker room and talk about what do you think the guys would about this to all the different things on the third and fourth line? I mean, do you think that certain guys are sitting in their stall and just taking a look and saying, well, I wonder who's going to fit here? Or have we gotten to the point now where everybody is just their own independent contractor and they just don't really talk like that anymore? You know, the old days, right? You used to sit in the locker in your grays,
Yeah.
and used to talk to everybody. You think it's still happening like that
Yeah.
right now?
I don't know if it's as outwardly, but you're certainly watching and recognizing who's in group 1, who's in group 2, who's going to Philadelphia to play preseason game, who's staying home and playing in the Garden on Saturday night,
Hmm.
how those are lining up. That is not lost on anybody who's ever gone through training camp, because and it's not necessarily an ideal thing to be doing, because sometimes the coaches throw you for, but the reality is, and the coaches will never really say what they're doing, but or they'll defer and say they're just putting guys out there. But if you're playing all the road games and none of the home games, it's not ideal in
Nope.
preseason.
Nope.
If you're not playing with regular players, not ideal. So I think there's a little bit more of that. I'm not necessarily sure that they're wondering exactly who they're playing with, but the guys recognize who's got the inside track and who doesn't at this point for sure.
Hmm. And guys are bright in general. They have an idea. They know who's on one way, who are on one way deals and everything. I mean, look,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is
You know
all.
who you're competing with. You know who's coming here. You know that one other guy, Patrice knows who the fourth line guys that are battling with each other
Mhm,
are who they are, and
mhm.
how it works, and he's just gonna keep his head down, but they're all noticing. They all notice.
Instead of running through the D crew, which I just don't want to do. We're not at that point yet here on Morning Brew. We're still figuring out what we want to do. We want to get to a few other things before we wrap up. I just want to ask you. I want to discuss the take on Derek Forbert so far. Um, he's the new guy to the crew. The guy that has been pretty much labeled the guy who you could see him with McAvoy, or you could see him with Connor Clifton, but we've seen him more with McAvoy lately. You have any first impressions as on him as a Bruin? Enough take yet or no?
Yeah, I mean, he's big. He's big and
He's
long,
big, yeah.
and I think I found Carlo looks really big and long out there as well. But I don't know. What was your expectation? I didn't really have an expectation. I didn't really know. I didn't. So what do
Well,
you think? Is he exceeding everybody, or is it too? I feel like it's the D
it's
are
not.
kind of like goalies, where it takes like a
Yeah, not
weeks to
yet.
really figure it out.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Here you asked what were my expectations, and that was a question that I think a lot of people had because Forbort comes over as really more of a third pair guy where he had been maybe a second pair guy. You know, in a tight game and penalties filled game, he's killing a ton of penalties, so he plays a lot. In a game that's more open, up and down or whatever, he would be more of a third pair type of D, right? Now here he's coming
Hmm.
from the Western Conference to the Eastern Conference, so he's going to see a little different style more often than not. He's going to play a very different system. Uh, with Bruce Cassidy. He's going to have different responsibilities game in, game out if he stays with Charlie McAvoy. It appears as if that will be the way that they begin for now. I think there's a comfort level. Just Bruce knows that he can put, Chucky and Grizz back together, and then the BU synergy just takes over. The terrier
Hmm.
bow wow. They start yipping and yapping and they're fine, right? I mean they're just because they've got that fluidness to their game. Um, but they're really working on on Forbert and my expectations were 18 to 20 minutes, big guy, shot blocker, penalty killer. Okay, that's the scouting report, and that's what I've seen out of him when I've been able to watch him regularly. But I don't know. I still know. Can he be a matchup guy? Can he be 22 minutes plus a night matchup guy with Charlie McAvoy? And not just with Charlie, but help make Charlie freer and better at the other end. I don't know yet. I guess I got to wait and see.
And yeah, and again, I think that I look at that situation similar to Allmark and even Swayman for that matter. And
Hmm.
you really don't know until you get Austin Matthews on a Saturday night in Toronto.
Right.
and you have to go on the road and match up and get in tough situations. You can do the preseason stuff, but it's really difficult to find it, and it's kind of it's sitting on the fence kind of answer this at this
It's
point on this
true though.
podcast,
It's true.
it's true. It's just the way it is. For that kind of a guy, you got to really find out come regular season time.
Yeah, and huge fan of Fluto Shinzawa of the Athletic. He had a really good article in the Athletic about the nuances, the differences that I think reads better than we could talk about it. How the structure of the Bruins' defensive system is versus other teams. We've tried and we have done it before on the podcast, but it's a really good article. So, folks, if you have the Athletic, if you can read it, it talks specifically about what Forbert is going through as he engineers, imagines how he playing defense compared to what he was playing before, especially in Winnipeg, man to man versus a more of a man zone at times type of thing. All right, let me just take a quick look
I
because I
played
put
for
out.
Paul Maurice. They don't even play defense. Those Paul Maurice teams don't play defense, so he's got a big change for him for sure.
Good old Paul Maurice. It's different, isn't it? I mean,
Mhm.
he loves his
It's
man-to-man
different.
defense.
Oh
He
my
loves.
god, it's a tragedy. Oh,
Well, did you ever tell him that? Like, could you ever speak up as a goalie? Like, Mo, let's do
no,
something different.
no,
Nothing. Nothing.
no, 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 no. You
Have
just
you ever
try and
been in a
listen. I had to
room?
make saves. Whatever you do, make saves. But you watch guys go out there and just get sizzled on picks, and you're just like, oh my god, can we just keep this simpler?
Yeah. Have you ever
It's
been on a
hard.
team where somebody stood up and told the coach, like, this shit ain't working? I know of a team. I know of a team that had it once where a guy is, a coach was going through a penalty kill thing or whatever, and one of the guys stood up and was like, "What are you doing? What are you talking about here?"
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't always go over well, but yeah, I've been in situations where the guys, yeah, especially, what, it does happen on penalty kill a lot, where it's like, why would we pressure like this against this team? You're going up
Yeah.
against uh, Colorado Avalanche or something, but yeah, no, it's tough to get a coach to go from zone to man to man,
It is.
or
Coaches
vice
got to
versa.
believe in what they believe in. All right. All
Yeah,
right.
that's
So
right.
that'll cover the nuts and bolts, so to speak, the hockey talk for this Morning Brew. And I was just checking the Twitterverse where I put out a little thing, and we got a lot of questions regarding actually Swayman, the fourth line, the third line, Studnicka. So we covered them all. One that we didn't cover here that just popped in. This comes from an old, well, he is old now, but he's a great buddy of mine. Worked with him as well. Darren Elliott, from a member of the Goalies Union. So he wants to know: is Ray Croft a
Yeah.
better forward than you are a goalie? And it's a very valid question. And the reason that he asks that question is that one time when we were both with the Atlanta Thrashers organization and we were doing a goalie camp, just like Razor, you do goalie camp for kids here in Boston area. Um, I went out. I took Milan Nelichka. Remember Milan? The name Milan Nelichka,
Yeah,
or
absolutely, I
as
do.
or as
The
Don Waddell
Bauer.
would
The
about
Bauer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don Waddell, the GM, would call him Milan Halenka. Could never say his name. It was funny. Milan
Yeah.
Nelichka. And so one day during the summer, I went in and all the kids are on the ice, and I take Nelichka's gear and I put it on about the same size and everything. And I go onto the
Yeah,
ice.
yeah.
I'm like, I'm out there and I'm like going to play goalie with these, 8 to 16-year-old kids and everything. And because I think I could, because I played goalie like 3 times when I was 8. And so D.
Yeah.
Elliott's out there and people are firing pucks.
That's
I'm
and
having a,
that's where your shoulder problems that's where your
oh,
shoulder problems started.
that's where my head problems started. I'll tell you what, real all kidding aside,
God.
but what I didn't realize is after having a great about hour or two on the ice with the kids, whatever, I get off the next day or 2 days later,
Yeah.
all of a sudden
Different muscles, man.
my neck
Different
muscle,
muscles.
my neck muscle's going like, what is up with that? Like what's up? And then I remembered instead of me having the nice little light
Heavy
helmet on, I
helmet.
had the goalie mask on,
Yeah,
and I'm
helmet.
sure
It's
that it
heavy.
got me going. Yes, D. Elliott, I can tell you, Ray Croft is a significantly better skater than I am a goalie. Razor's got this very controlled. I wouldn't call it methodical because that would mean you're slow. You're not slow. You're smooth. You've got this kind of stick smooth way about you out there when you're skating
Yes.
out. So yes, D. Elliott, the goalie union wins again. Thank you for the
Yet
inquiry.
again. Yet
All
again.
right, let's wrap it up with this. So we've been off since the Jerry Cheevers episode. We talked to Cheesy. We had a great time. Thank you, folks, for listening to that. And Razor, not I
And
mean,
if you
there's not
didn't listen, go back to that because Cheesy's the best.
the
If you
best.
missed
Please,
it because it was the summer, go check Cheesy's out. It's priceless. He's the best.
awesome. Yes. And RC, our fearless producer, worked his ass, his everything off to get that one out after almost having a coronary as we were, were about to record that one. By the way, I learned something about RC. Our guy RC is like, it's not heavy metal. I don't know what to call it, but he's into this heavy duty music and he's going out there and he's like, I see it on social media with like, black eyes and it's like mosh pit heaven and everything like that. So if anybody pisses off RC from now on, it's going to be you, Razor, not me. Okay, after seeing him
Yeah,
come out of those things,
yeah.
I think he's
Oh,
still working the black eyes right now. But no, listen, go listen to Cheesy. That was awesome. But Razor and I didn't have a lot to talk about. We all both wanted to take a break, and we started discussing what we wanted to do with the podcast coming up for this season. And we're still working on or one thing in particular. I think that if I'm going to say when, but I'll say if too, if and when it gets finalized, I think will be great for the show. Distribution, notoriety, recognition, et cetera, and just possibilities. I think are great. But I think it's pretty clear. It's safe to say that we're not going to be able to do a show after every game this year, folks. Just so you understand, hockey gods willing, we have an 82 game season. Let's start with that. Everybody stays healthy, safe, etc. We'll have an 82 game season. Due to both Razor and my schedule and other things that we have and just the way it works, we're not going to be able to do a show. It's just physically not going to be possible after each game. Is that a fair way to begin this Razor? We're in agreement on that. We're not going to
yeah.
be able to.
Yes,
Okay.
very, very fair. 82
Okay.
times. We have wives and
We
kids.
I think at times, yes. I just got back into
Yeah.
by the way, I just got back into the bed. I can't tell if the queen is happy or not after sleeping on the couch for 3 weeks with the shoulder surgery. I don't know if she's
Oh
happy or
boy.
not.
No, she's not.
Speaking of wives. But so here's our plan. We're still planning on doing a hell of a lot of shows. Our plan right now is 50 shows, 2 a week during the season, plus some extras. Does that mean we get to 60 shows? Who knows? But plan on 50 shows during the season. That might mean we have a show on a Monday and a Friday. Those details are being worked out. We understand, and by the way, we know the importance, right, Razor, of doing it after every game. However, because again, it just wouldn't be possible. We didn't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So we came up with 2 shows a week. We also came up with draft day or free agency trade. If there's a huge story, a big trade, we're going to be there for you, folks. We'll jump on and get 15, 20 minutes for you. And the plan is also still to do after every playoff game. So we're still planning on that as well. But regular season, it looks like the plan is basically 2 shows a week. We'll keep you updated when they're coming out. We'll get them out. It's still going to be the best damn coverage for Boston Bruins games and for insight and everything you could ask for. And that's where we're leaning right now. So did I miss anything in that description or no? We covered it.
No, and continue to stay tuned. We'll have it teed right up.
Yeah, we're gonna get it out there for you folks. So we plan on doing another show this week, talking Bruins and talking probably just the end of the preseason. And as we start to look ahead, we will have a season preview show next week as well before the 16th, before that game. And we are doing, by the way, Razor and I are doing opening night together. So we will be doing a Morning Brew, a traditional one after that game. So you will have that on the 17th.
Yeah, and if you can't tell, it'll end up being 60 shows. We love doing this. There'll be lots of things to do. We're gonna jump on, and it's just the way it is. It's just let's not. We just don't want to promise
We
the
can't.
every morning after a game.
It's not going to happen. Razor.
Don't
Besides
forget,
our,
everybody, they have games in LA and San Jose this year. So that alone puts it
yes,
at 2 a.m. when the game ends. Those are tough to do.
yeah, and Razor. Our wives might divorce us, but you and I might divorce each other too if we get 82
I
games.
get more than enough Billy time.
It's not going to happen, right? But the show is going to. All right, so that's going to wrap this morning brew up here, and great to be back in the saddle. Awesome to see RC before and get him going again. Good to have him back. Some new stuff will be happening. We will update you when everything becomes official here, there, everywhere. But overall, the boys are back. Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor, episode whatever it is, but we'll call it one for the 21-22 season is in the books.